The red envelope trembled in my coat pocket as I watched Daniel carve the turkey. My son stood at the head of my dining room table, in my seat, playing host to 12 guests who had no idea what was really happening. The burn on my left hand throbbed beneath the bandage, a reminder of 3 nights ago when the kitchen fire had started while I slept. "Before we begin," Daniel said, raising his wine glass, "I want to toast my father. Dad's getting up there in years, and since Mom passed, well, he needs us more than ever. That's why Jessica and I moved in. Family takes care of family." He smiled at me, that same smile I'd seen him give suspects back when he used to ride along on my patrol routes as a kid. The smile that said he was in control. I smiled back and pulled the red envelope from my pocket. Around the table, my neighbors Karen and Bill exchanged glances. My old partner Marcus straightened in his chair. Daniel's smile flickered. "Before we eat," I said, my voice steady after 30 years of testifying in court, "I have something for you, son. Early Christmas gift." I placed the envelope on the table in front of him. His hand froze on the carving knife. "But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got here, and why that envelope was about to change everything. 13 months ago, my wife Linda died. Pancreatic cancer. 6 weeks from diagnosis to the end. 42 years of marriage, gone like smoke. The house felt enormous and empty without her laugh, her coffee brewing at 5 in the morning, her voice calling me in for dinner. I wandered those rooms like a ghost, touching things she'd touched, sitting in chairs she'd sat in, trying to hold on to something that kept slipping away. Daniel showed up 2 weeks after the funeral. He was my only child, 40 years old, worked in pharmaceutical sales, married to Jessica for 5 years. They lived in Phoenix, about 2 hours away. I saw them maybe 4 times a year before Linda died. "Dad," he'd said, standing in my living room in Tucson, looking around at the photos, the furniture Linda had picked out, the life we'd built. "You shouldn't be alone. Jessica and I have been talking. Her company went remote. My territory covers Tucson anyway. We could move in for a while. Help you adjust." I should have said no. But grief makes you stupid. Makes you grateful for company, for voices in the empty rooms. I said yes. The first month was good. Jessica cooked meals that weren't frozen dinners. Daniel fixed the leaky faucet I'd been ignoring. They asked about Linda. Let me tell stories, cry when I needed to. I thought maybe something good was coming from the tragedy. My son and I, closer than we'd been in years. Then came the small changes. "Dad, we need to use your credit card for groceries, just until our accounts transfer." Then, "Dad, those photos of Mom in the hallway are kind of depressing. Let's put up something brighter." Then, "Dad, we're having friends over Friday. Maybe you could have dinner in your room? It'll be loud." I'm a retired detective. I spent 30 years reading people, spotting inconsistencies, following evidence. But when it's your own son, you make excuses. He's stressed. He's adjusting. He means well. I kept making those excuses right up until the moment I woke up choking on smoke. It was a Tuesday night, mid-October, 11 months after Linda died. I'd gone to bed at 10 like always. Something woke me at midnight. Not sound. Smell. Smoke. I sat up in bed, my old instincts kicking in before my brain fully engaged. Heavy smoke was seeping under my bedroom door. I grabbed my phone, stumbled to the door. The hallway was thick with it. Through the haze, I could see orange light from the kitchen. I'd been first responder at enough house fires during my years on patrol. This smoke was wrong, too much, too fast. And underneath the burning smell was something else. Gasoline. I made it to the kitchen. The stove was engulfed, flames spreading to the cabinets. The fire extinguisher was in the garage. I grabbed a pot, filled it with water, threw it on the flames. Not enough. Another pot. The smoke alarm finally started screaming. Daniel appeared, coughing, dramatic. "Dad! What happened?" "Call 911, I shouted. "Get out of the house." Jessica ran from their bedroom, phone already in hand. They evacuated while I fought the fire with pot after pot of water. By the time the fire department arrived, I'd mostly contained it. The kitchen was destroyed. My left hand was burned where I'd gotten too close, but the house was standing. The fire investigator was a young guy, maybe 30. He walked through the wreckage with his camera and testing equipment. I watched him work, saw him pause at the stove, saw his expression change. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, pulling me aside while the paramedic wrapped my hand. "You said you were asleep when this started?" "Yes." "And you didn't leave anything on the stove? No cooking before bed?" "Nothing." I ate dinner at 6. Kitchen was clean. I'm certain. He nodded slowly. The gas line was fully open, and we found accelerant residue. Someone didn't just leave the stove on, sir. Someone opened the gas, then used lighter fluid to make sure it caught. The words hit me like ice water. Are you saying this was arson? I'm saying it's suspicious. The police will want to investigate. But Daniel was already there, arm around my shoulders, voice full of concern. Dad probably forgot he turned the stove on. He's been so forgetful lately. Just last week, he left the front door unlocked all night. I hadn't left any door unlocked. But the way he said it, so earnest, so worried, made the investigator's expression soften with sympathy. At the hospital, they treated the second-degree burn on my hand and sent me home with painkillers. Daniel and Jessica fussed over me, insisted I sleep in the guest room since my bedroom smelled like smoke. They brought me water, adjusted my pillows, played the perfect concerned family. I lay in that guest room bed and stared at the ceiling, my detective's mind finally working the way it should have been working for months. The accelerant, the gas line fully open, Daniel's immediate deflection to my forgetfulness. The way he'd been taking photos recently, my cluttered desk, my unmade bed, my pills on the bathroom counter, building a narrative. And then I remembered the life insurance. Linda's policy had paid out 3 months ago, $500,000. It was sitting in my account, untouched, because I couldn't bring myself to spend money that existed because she didn't. I pulled out my phone in the dark and checked my bank account. Nothing missing. But when I checked the beneficiary designation on my own life insurance, my heart stopped. It had been changed. Last month, the new beneficiary was Daniel. I hadn't changed it. The next morning, I drove to my bank. My hand throbbed, but I didn't care. The manager, Helen, had handled my accounts for 15 years. Helen, I need to see all the activity on my accounts for the past 6 months. Everything. She printed it out, page after page. And there it was. Unauthorized charges I'd missed because I hadn't been paying attention, too buried in grief to check statements. $3,200 to online poker sites. $5,800 to a car dealership for a down payment on a new Mercedes. $2,400 to a jewelry store. Did you authorize these? Helen asked gently. No. And this? She pointed to a form. Someone tried to add a joint account holder last week. Your son. But the signature looked wrong, so we declined it. We tried to call you. I never got a call. She showed me the number on file. It had been changed to Daniel's cell phone. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and made a decision. I'd been a detective for 30 years. I'd investigated hundreds of cases, built evidence, caught criminals. Now I was going to do the same thing. But this time, the suspect was my son. That's when I called Marcus Chen. He'd been my partner for 12 years before he retired. We'd kept in touch, monthly lunches, occasional fishing trips. Good man, sharp mind. And right now, I needed both. Marcus, I need help. Can we meet? We met at a diner on the east side, away from my neighborhood. I told him everything. The fire, the bank account, the life insurance beneficiary change. He listened without interrupting, the way he always had. Tom, he said when I finished, you need a lawyer. And you need to move fast. If they're willing to commit arson, they won't stop. I know, but I need evidence first. Real evidence, not just suspicion. He pulled out his phone. I know someone, attorney who specializes in elder financial abuse. Sarah Chen, my niece. She's tough, and she's seen cases like this. 3 days later, I sat in Sarah Chen's office. She was 40, efficient, with her uncle's same direct gaze. Mr. Reynolds, what you're describing is textbook elder financial exploitation. The good news is you caught it relatively early. The bad news is the arson attempt escalates this significantly. What do I do? First, we document everything. Get copies of all bank statements, the fire investigation report, medical records from your burn treatment. Second, we change all your passwords, account access, everything. Third, we prepare a new estate plan. Fourth, she paused, we consider involving the police. My son could go to jail. Your son tried to burn down your house with you in it. For money. The truth of it, said out loud by someone who wasn't me, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked my case the way I'd worked hundreds of cases during my career. I installed small security cameras in the common areas of my house, battery-powered, hidden in plain sight as smoke detectors. I documented every interaction, every request for money, every manipulation. The cameras caught Daniel going through my desk when I was at physical therapy for my burned hand. They caught Jessica staging messes, then photographing them. They caught Daniel on the phone with someone, his voice low but clear on the audio. The fire didn't work, but now we have documentation he's unsafe. The doctor agrees he shouldn't be living alone. What doctor? I hadn't been to any doctor except for the burn treatment. I dug deeper. Found emails on Daniel's laptop when he left it open. He'd been corresponding with a Dr. Richard Morrison, a gerontologist, about having me evaluated for dementia. The emails were careful, professional, but the intent was clear. Get a diagnosis. Use it to justify guardianship. Control the money. I photographed everything. Meanwhile, I played my part. Confused old man. Grateful father. I shuffled more, forgot names, asked the same questions twice. Let them think their plan was working. Sarah filed paperwork to change my will. The new one left Daniel the house only after my death, with strict conditions. The life insurance money went to the Tucson Police Benevolent Fund. All other assets went into a trust that Daniel couldn't touch. But we kept it quiet, filed it sealed. No public record yet. I wanted to wait, wanted to see how far they'd go. The answer came on December 15th, 10 days before Christmas. I was supposed to have a doctor's appointment that morning. Daniel had insisted on scheduling it, had driven me there himself, but I'd called ahead, confirmed with the receptionist. The appointment was with Dr. Morrison, the gerontologist. For a cognitive assessment, I played along, walked into that office, let them do their tests, and I failed them. Deliberately. Wrong dates, wrong names, confused about where I was. Daniel sat in the corner, watching, satisfied. After the appointment, Dr. Morrison pulled Daniel aside. I heard him through the door I'd left cracked. Your father shows significant cognitive decline. I'd recommend immediate guardianship evaluation. For his safety. That night, I sat in my room and looked at the man I'd become in the mirror. 77 years old. 30 of them spent protecting people. And now my own son was trying to have me declared incompetent so he could steal everything I'd worked for. But I wasn't done fighting. Not even close. I called Sarah. He took me to a doctor. Got a diagnosis of cognitive decline. They're going to file for guardianship. How long do we have? Days? Maybe a week? Then we move first. I'll prepare eviction paperwork. And Tom, I think it's time to involve Detective Rivera. Anna Rivera had been a detective in the fraud division for 8 years. We'd worked together on a few cases before I retired. She was sharp, thorough, and she didn't like people who preyed on the elderly. I met her at the same diner where I'd met Marcus. Showed her everything. The bank records, the fire investigation report, the security camera footage, the emails about Dr. Morrison, the fake cognitive assessment. She looked at me across the table. Tom, this is attempted murder and fraud. I can get warrants. But I need you to be sure. This is your son. I'm sure. 4 days before Christmas, a sheriff's deputy arrived at my house with eviction papers. Daniel and Jessica were in the living room, wrapping presents. The deputy was professional, efficient. Notice of eviction. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. Daniel's face went red. This is ridiculous. Dad, you can't do this. You need us. I stood in the doorway, my burned hand still bandaged. I need my house back. I need my life back. You have until January 15th. Jessica started crying. Daniel started yelling. The deputy stood between us, hand near his belt, until they calmed down. After he left, Daniel tried a different approach. Dad, please. We're family. You're not thinking clearly. Let's call Dr. Morrison. I've already called him. Told him you arranged that appointment without my knowledge. Told him you instructed me to fail the tests. He's very interested in speaking with the medical board about it. Daniel's face went white. You recorded that appointment? I'm a detective, son. I record everything. The next 3 days were Cold War. They stopped pretending to care, stopped bringing me food, making conversation. They stayed in their room, whispering, making calls. On Christmas Eve, I heard them leave the house. I checked the garage. The Mercedes they'd bought with my money was gone. So was Linda's jewelry box from our bedroom. They came back an hour later. I didn't say anything, just watched, waited. Christmas Day, I invited people over. Not random guests. Witnesses, Marcus and his wife. Sarah Chen and her husband, Detective Rivera, in civilian clothes. My neighbors Karen and Bill, who'd known Linda and me for 20 years. And Daniel and Jessica, who had no choice but to stay. I'd cooked the turkey myself, one-handed, stubborn. Set the table with Linda's good china. Made all her favorite sides. This was her house, her holiday, and I was reclaiming it in her name. Daniel played host because he couldn't help himself. Carved the turkey, poured wine, gave his little speech about taking care of his aging father. And then I pulled out the red envelope. He opened it with everyone watching. Inside was a document. The first page was the new will. His face went from pale to red as he read. This is dated 3 weeks ago. You can't do this. I can. I did. The house is yours only after my death, and only if you haven't been convicted of any crimes against me. The rest goes to charity. He looked around the table, saw no support, only witnesses. Dad, we can talk about this privately. No, these people need to hear this. Detective Rivera especially. Anna stood, pulled out her badge. Daniel Reynolds, Jessica Reynolds, you're under investigation for elder financial abuse, fraud, attempted arson, and attempted murder. We have warrants for your financial records, your phone records, and your vehicle. The jewelry you removed from this house yesterday is considered theft. You have the right to remain silent. The room exploded. Jessica screaming, Daniel demanding lawyers, Karen crying, Marcus standing beside me, solid and steady. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Real police, not just Anna. They arrested Daniel and Jessica in my living room, in front of the turkey and the presents and the ruins of our family Christmas. After they were gone, after the statements were taken, after the house was finally quiet, I sat in my chair with Marcus and Anna and Sarah. The DA says with the evidence you collected, they'll likely take a plea deal, Anna said. 5 to 7 years for Daniel, 3 to 5 for Jessica. And if they don't, then we go to trial. And with your testimony and the recordings, they'll lose. I should have felt victorious. But mostly I felt tired, old, alone. Sarah touched my arm. You did the right thing, Mr. Reynolds. You protected yourself. That took courage. 3 months later, Daniel and Jessica took the plea deal. He got 6 years, she got 4. The court ordered restitution of every penny they'd stolen, plus damages. I sold the house. Too many memories, good and bad. Bought a smaller place near Marcus and his wife. Started volunteering at the police department, teaching younger detectives about financial crimes against seniors. And I started dating someone. Margaret, a widow I met at the community center. She'd lost her husband 2 years ago. We understood each other's grief, our caution, our slow rebuilding. One evening, sitting on my new porch with Margaret, I got a letter from Daniel, prison stationery. Dad, I'm sorry. I was desperate. Jessica's gambling debts, my job falling apart. I convinced myself you wouldn't miss the money. Then it spiraled. The fire was supposed to be small, just enough to make you scared, dependent. I never meant to hurt you. Can you forgive me? Margaret watched me read it. What will you do? I folded the letter carefully. Put it in my pocket. I don't know yet. Maybe someday. But not today. She took my hand, the one with the scar from the burn. That's honest. That's enough. We sat there as the sun set over Tucson, 2 people who'd lost their partners, who'd been betrayed by family, who'd fought back and survived. Not happy endings. Exactly. But honest ones. Real ones. Justice, I'd learned over 30 years as a detective, wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to be a victim. It was about protecting yourself even when it meant losing the people you loved. It was about choosing truth over comfortable lies. And some days, that was enough.